So when it comes to watching anime and my personal enjoyment of it, one of the things I look for is a good aesthetic. Now, I'm not saying anything has to have a good aesthetic on the levels of stuff like Spirited Away or JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but the main reason why I like aesthetics so much is because it really helps set the tone and the atmosphere of the series. And it can also give an anime that cool factor. And all of this is why a series like Samurai Champloo works so well. Samurai Champloo is an old anime that ran from 2004 to 2005. It takes place in Japan's Edo period, and we follow a trio as they're looking for the samurai that smells like sunflowers. Which may sound weird to anybody that hasn't seen the show yet, but by the end of this video, trust me, it'll make sense. Anyways, the series mixes samurai and Japanese culture with rap and hip-hop, which may sound like a crazy idea and may not be the easiest to pull off. But this isn't the case for Samurai Champloo, because it mixes both of them perfectly, almost too perfectly.
Samurai Champloo.
Samurai Champloo's music is probably the most well-known thing about it, mostly because, like I said, it just fits the series perfectly. If I had to describe Samurai Champloo's OST in one word, it would be chill. From the opening to the tracks that are used in the show, even to the ending, everything just has kind of a chill vibe to it, which is probably why so many people use it as studying music. The OST is just overall great, and it put me and a whole lot of other people onto the composer of it. That composer being the legendary Nujabes. Once I heard the opening for the show, I knew I was going to be invested into this guy's music, and the beats that he blessed this show with are just straight up god tier. And it's honestly a shame that the OST isn't on any streaming platforms. But even with that aside, Nujabes still gets a lot of recognition even after his passing back in 2010, becoming one of the most influential figures of the lo-fi genre. And as Samurai Champloo got more popular, Nujabes and his music gained a lot more fans. That's why you may see a lot of edits using his music. For example, the song that's used in those No Enemies edits, and the one that I currently have in the background, yeah, that's Nujabes. And I can go on and on about the music from the show and Nujabes in general, but I think y'all get the point. Nujabes is the GOAT.
Hello. What'd you say?
Your stance leaves you wide open, and your moves are totally inefficient. All in all, your fighting style is a mess.
You son of a...
I swear, you are the most undisciplined fighter I've ever known.
Now, the series has a bunch of characters, but the most important ones are the main trio, Fu, Jin, and Mugen. I'll start with Mugen since he's the most popular character from the show. Mugen has the most energy out of the entire trio, and is also the most ignorant, because when it comes to not giving a damn about anything, this dude got like a 99 overall, which is probably why so many people love him. And on top of that, he's also just badass. And then you have Jin, who's a lot more chill and calm than Mugen, but he's also just as badass. And the two have a rivalry that carries on throughout the show. And while the two may be at each other's necks a lot of the time, whenever they work together, it's just top tier badassery. And last but not least, you have Fu. Fu is sort of like the main character of the series, and she's basically the main reason why all three of them are together. And she brings sort of this balance to the group and keeps the other two in check. And all of this makes for a great dynamic between all three of the characters, making them really fun and enjoyable to watch. It kind of reminds me of like early One Piece with Luffy, Zoro, and Nami. While Luffy and Zoro don't have a rivalry like Mugen and Jin, they're still two great characters with just absolute badass moments, and Nami's usually the one that had to keep them in check. Maybe a stretch, but personally that's just how I felt while watching them. But these guys are honestly one of my favorite trios in all anime. Not my favorite though, that belongs to another samurai anime. Speaking of which, what's a samurai anime without the action?
Rent a supercar for a day. Drive around with your friends, smoke a gram of that haze. Roll easy on the ounce, that's a lot for a day. Just enough for a week. My nigga, what can I say? I'm high and I'm by. Wait, I mean I'm straight. I'm just wine, the brother just brought the grapes. My brother give it some time.
This show hits the nail on the coffin when it comes to action. Remember how I said the music is probably the most popular thing from the show? Well, the action may be just as popular, and for all the right reasons. The way the characters move in the fights is just so smooth, and it adds so much more to the characters themselves. Like, take Mugen for example. The way Mugen fights matches his personality. He brings out a lot of energy, literally breakdancing as he fights. Like, you could just tell the staff had a lot of fun animating his fight scenes. The same can also be said for Jin. Like I mentioned earlier with Jin's character, he's a lot more chill and calm than Mugen, and this is perfectly shown through the way he fights. It's a lot more organized and less chaotic, I guess, than Mugen's, but it's still just as cool and fun to watch. Also, the action is where I feel like the music really works best. The beats always match the tone and the atmosphere, and just works so well with the smooth animation of these fights. Honestly, just another reason why the series is so great. But for great action, you also gotta have great story, and Samurai Champloo definitely has one.
Who is this samurai who smells of sunflowers?
Well,
What the hell is a sunflower anyway?
Wait a minute.
You don't know?
It's a flower.
So what do they smell like?
Do you have any other leads?
Like a picture or something?
What makes you think he's around here?
Ah! Stop! For right now, let's get something to eat.
Samurai Champloo is a pretty episodic anime, meaning that almost each episode contains their own individual story, which makes sense when you know more about the creator, Shinichiro Watanabe, who's also the creator of Cowboy Bebop. And if you've seen that, you know that it's a pretty episodic show as well, which actually kind of explains why the action and the aesthetics are so well done. Anyways though, the episodic episodes in Samurai Champloo are great. They can range from being intense and serious, to the group fooling around and doing side quests. There were a lot of great stories within these episodes, but one of my favorites was episode 11. The episode takes place on a rainy day, and Jin is wandering around the town until he finds himself a job at a food stand, and he's there all alone until a woman that he met earlier on a bridge appears, and she sees that Jin is struggling with the job, and she chooses to help him. They get a bunch of customers all the way till the end of the day, and this is where we find out she works at a brothel, and she's doing it to pay off her husband's debts from gambling. I'd also like to mention, while all this is going on, Mugen is earning money from betting on stag beetle fights, which, believe it or not, is actually a real thing in Japan. Anyways though, the next day Jin finds the brothel that Shino's working at, which is the girl's name, and he wants to try and convince her to leave the brothel, but she just shoos him away, and since Jin is broke, no money basically means no pussy. So the guards that work at the brothel beat him up and he takes himself back home, but Jin is determined to get her out of there, so Mugen gives him some of the money that he got from the stag beetle fight, so Jin gets back to the brothel, pays to be with Shino, and everything seems good at first. Jin even gets some of that puh, but then all of a sudden her husband appears, and he starts to demand her for money, but instead she tells him to get his own money, and this pisses him off and he starts to hit her, causing Jin to have to restrain him. And after this altercation, Jin goes back home, but then has the sudden urge again to go back to the brothel, and this time he actually does convince her, so they sneak out only to be caught by the owner and his staff. But as the guards are chasing them, Mugen and Fu come in for backup, and while Mugen fights off the guards, Jin leads Shino to a boat, which will take her to a shelter. The two share their last words and watch each other as the boat floats away, all the way until the episode ends. And this right here is just one example of the type of episodes you'll get from Samurai Champloo. Entire stories put into one episode with great pacing and great moments. And there are a bunch of other great episodes in the show. You've got episode 19, and you've also got the baseball episode. But all of these episodes are used to add more to the characters, and it's also build up to the trio's main goal, which is to find the samurai that smells like sunflowers. And once we get to the last 3 episodes of the show, it all pays off. And without getting into any major spoilers, the ending of the show is incredibly satisfying. Samurai Champloo teaches us that it's not about the goal, but instead it's the journey that we take to get to that goal. And all the people that you met, the events that took place, and all the knowledge that you gain from the journey is what's most important. And this, along with all the other reasons that I listed before in the video, is why I love Samurai Champloo. From the music, to the characters, to the action, to the story, and just the overall aesthetic of the show. All of that is why Samurai Champloo is so great. But with all that being said, I'm going to end the video here. This is a video that I've been wanting to make for a while now, and I'm glad I finally got to do it. So if you've made it this far into the video, I just want to say thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch y'all in the next video.
Nice and silky smooth.